Hello, today I'm here to explain homework 2, Messenger. Um, it's 1 a.m. and I'm really tired, so I'm sorry if my voice is kind of soft. I will try to speak as clearly as I possibly can. So at the top of the file, we have just my general comment. This is in Python. My name's Oliver Ayala. This is for Computer Science 376 Distributed Systems, and I received help from Avery. Below that, I have a few import statements importing sys, socket, threading, and OS. I suppose I could import only the specific functions that I need from those libraries, but I just left it like this. And to start, I'd rather get started at the bottom of the file because I believe that is the easiest thing to explain. Also, it's the meat of the program. A lot of this code was taken from class, from the Echo server and Echo client files that were shown. So within this if statement, we get the command line arguments and we disambiguate between the server and the client. So this first if statement inside of the if statement is for the server. So if there is a -L in the second place of sys.argv, then we know that we're dealing with that we need to create a server connection. So we're going to have this server socket or this server socket communicator object created. These two lines were taken pretty much directly from class. And then we're going to bind to any available interfaces as we did in class. And we're going to listen for a connection and accept it. Accepting this connection creates a new object. It returns a new socket. Or sorry, it doesn't create a new object, but it returns a new socket. And then below this line is the actual threading implementation for the server. So it's going to refer to the receive messages class. It's going to pass in suck for this client connection. The self refers to the object that we're creating. And self.client is going to have that socket reference information. And in this run function, we're going to say that we're receiving on port 1024. And that's going to be stored in the variable connection port. So while this connection port is live and until we give it up, we're going to communicate over it, and this is essentially what is in the if statement. os._exit 0, it basically terminates all whatever's going on in the program. And inside the while loop, we're going to keep receiving on port 1024. When we exit the while loop, we're going to close the connection and then also terminate the program. So back to this nested if statement. So past the threading portion, down to lines being sent, this is just going to read standard input. And while there is standard input to be read, we're going to send that over this threaded server connection. And so the client should be able to receive whatever is being typed into the command line. And then we have OS exit again, which terminates all program processes. And else, we have this else because if we're not dealing with a server, if this does not follow the command line arguments, then we're dealing with a client. We're going to want to create a client connection. So we're going to have the connection information stored in sys.argv, and if there is no information in sys.argv, we're going to automatically assume that the server is localhost. So server is automatically localhost if nothing else is in the third position of sys.argv. And then we're going to create this client object. We're going to have this client communicator object, and sock is going to be that client communicator object. It's going to be stored in the variable sock. And then we're going to connect to the server with sock.connect, and we're going to pass in port information from the second command line argument. And then here we actually have the threading implementation where we reference receive messages, and we're going to pass in the information from sock that we stored in sock. And then we're going to start, so we're going to go ahead and start this connection, start the communication so that both the client and the server can receive and send messages. And then I also named this lines incoming. I've definitely tried to avoid just saying messages, simply because if I put messages everywhere, I ended up running into errors because all the messages would just overwrite that one variable. So I just had to make the variables different. I made lines to be sent, lines incoming, and I believe up here, oh, oops, I guess not. So earlier I did have a different implementation that had like an incoming lines variable here that would read standard input, but that's useless now because it no longer exists. So in lines incoming, it's going to read the command, whatever's being put into the command line. And so while there are lines incoming, we're going to send those over. We're going to send those over the socket connection that we've created, and then we're just going to constantly read more information that is coming in. And after all that, we're going to terminate the program processes with os.exit. Status 0. Thank you for listening. This has been my homework messenger.py. Thank you so much and have a great evening.